Right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching it across the states in Nigeria. They say facts and figures speak reality, and they take into account numbers and the collective statistics. When we do comparison, particularly with reference to economic situation and metrics, these must be metrics that covers the entire population to capture reality. Again, I welcome you to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your convener, your executive producer, your script writer. I wear many hats. Of course, I'm the host of this platform. I think it's important for us to hear what On This Day initial segment asks for us. When I return, I give my 2 cents and stay with me. I'll be right back. Thanks for staying with me. My takeaway from On This Day initial segment today is just this was what happened exactly 70 years ago. Single sector brings in billions of naira into the Nigerian economy. I'm quite sure that if the sector is well harnessed without corruption and full accountability, we would be earning more considering our volume of overseas trade, importing and exporting, and if there's ease of doing business in our country, I like to keep it real on this platform. I think that's the takeaway from On This Day initial segment. So the question is, how are we going to be seeing change to make sure that, there's growth in all sectors? But you know what? Let me hold my breath. Let me get a message from my sponsors, those who have put me on this platform. When I return, we'll dive straight to the topic at hand. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. Today, I'm diving into a developing controversy shaking up Nigerians' economic and political discourse, a sharp exchange between the outgoing president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, and the Nigerian presidency. At a recent public forum, Dr. Adesina stated that the Nigerian GDP per capita has declined since independence from $1,847 in 1960 to $824 today, implying that Nigerians are economically worse off than they were 6 decades ago. But this triggered a rebuttal from the presidency and a strongly worded statement by Mr. Bayo Ononuga accusing Adesina of peddling inaccurate data and sounding like Peter Obi. This isn't just a clash of numbers, it's a clash of narratives. One about, I would say that, when it comes to development, which really means a lot to us in our country, who controls the story of Nigerians' progress? Whether it's facts themselves or becoming politically dangerous, to unpack this tension, between the metrics and the meaning, between perception and policy. I have with me today a distinguished voice in Nigeria's public affairs and in national policy control conversation, who will be throwing a lot of light on the topic at hand. And I think it's important for me to play his profile. When I return, you agree with me that he's the right fit, to throw a lot of light on the issue. Stay with me, I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, welcome to the show, Mr. Kunle. It's a pleasure, to have you physically in the studio today on Real Talk with Kike show. You're or let's say you're well aware, of the economic controversies that have woven itself into politics. So that will be the core of our Real Talk conversation today. But again, many thanks for creating time to be here on our lunch show, But how are you doing today? What's your comparison when it comes to Lagos and Abuja? You can see the hustling and bustling in Lagos, right? Yes. Compared to Abuja, what's your take on that? Let's start from there.
Yeah, Lagos is the heartbeat of Nigeria. It's the commercial nerve centers. And thank you very much, madam. Good afternoon.
Excellent.
In the studio, and good afternoon, the audience all over.
Thank you very much.
It's a good place to be.
It's a good place to be.
By the time the rain starts, I will just remain quietly in Abuja.
All right. Let's put that aside now. So, let's dive straight to the issue at that, because I must ask you, how appropriate is it to use the GDP per capita as a tool for, gagging, or would I say, gagging citizens, especially when we consider whether Dr. Adeshina's reference was based on normal, is a normal thing, or is the figures right, or is it real, or is it PPP that have been that has adjusted the figures, a metrics that I feel that is even relevant right now in an economy that is dominated, by informal and unaccounted activities and hearing. So with all that I've said thus far in my openings, I cannot help but balance these two questions in the light of Mr. Bayo Ononuga's response that Nigerians' GDP per capita in 1960 was just, did he say $93 or so, and all of that, not $1,847, which was what Mr. Adeshina misleading in his remarks, so to speak, or was it just the simple, I don't know the word to use. Is it just loose talk, or I don't know how to put it, or is it just lacking in the clarity, in the contextual clarity that we think that is what is bringing the controversial responses from the Aso Rock? And should someone of his own caliber, as a former minister and FDP president, have shown more rigor in data sourcing? I don't know, what's your take up? I just felt that I needed to bring this robust question to forth so that you'll be able to throw a lot of light on it.
Thank you very much, madam. There was no need for this controversy.
Okay.
The conversation would have just been on simple comparison of our situation in 1960 at independence. There are many issues, population, how many graduates were in Nigeria in 1960, and compared to now, what was the size of our physical development in 1960, physical urbanization. So the Professor Adesina is coming from a helicopter view of issues around Africa and globally, and the political sensitivity of Bayo Ononuga, respected journalist and propagandist, one of the best propagandists Nigeria ever had. His political sensitivity to every utterances from people is understandable. So his job is to defend the regime he's serving in. But this is avoidable.
Okay.
If he had consulted with me, I would have said the way he was going to respond will be modified. We will find more numbers to bring out there and say, oh, yes, President of African Development Bank said this, but this is the result of our efforts so far, so good. Because for me, why I am so pro President Tinubu about the reform, this conversation is about the reform, the impact of the decisions that President Tinubu took in the last 2 years, the impact on the economy of Nigeria, socio-economic, is what is bringing about all this conversation. But if our bio, I will not respond in that way. I will have find another way to put it more scientifically. So, because President Tinubu is doing what nobody was able to do since 1960, he bailed the cat in the animal kingdom. That's what he has done. So now we have to manage the situation, because he has stick his neck to say this country must be reformed. Because Obasanjo, who even we can call the father of the modern Nigeria from 1970 when he ended the Civil War, he attempted to remove subsidy. It was difficult politically. He attempted to manage the foreign exchange. It was difficult for him. And because so this is the situation. President Tinubu threw up the big issue from the house, from the big elephant from the house. He threw it out and said, oh yeah, if you want to level the grass, let's level, but we will rescue you at the end of the day. Okay. So the GDP of 1960 and the GDP now is a relative issue. I've discussed with some highly placed Nigerians about the relativity of time, the value of the money, the population of the country, the productive base of the country that time. There was nothing like digital economy in 1960. So all these things are relative. If you put the number against the population, yes, you will say it's poor compared to Malaysia, to countries that were at par with us. Even South Korea was not as buoyant as this in 1960. Nigeria was almost more buoyant than South Korea in 1960. So I don't want the controversy for a reason. The status of Professor Adesina up there, we need that status as a Nigerian for the optic, and I cannot see us being at conflict in controversy with him. So he's a highly respected voice globally, and we must keep it like that. We need people like that on our side. It's like having controversy with Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala in your own country. Is not, you don't need it. Okay, so please, we must work for the good of this economy. The GDP is low. It's not good enough, but we are working towards it.
I like the end of your submission when you are talking about, we cannot clash with our own. These are the people who are making us, who are uplifting us in the diaspora, so to speak. That's my takeaway from your conversation. But given that the presidency had to dismiss, Mr. Adesina's remarks as Obi-like, labeling them as data heavy, it's very critical, and a populist that does this comparison reflects, in terms of a broader, would I say, government that is not that is sensitive to economic criticism, because that's how I'm looking at it. And I must ask you, with your level of experience, your knowledge, are we experiencing, I don't know what to call it now, because I feel that this economic criticism now is making it look as if we are entering into a climate where anybody that is antagonizing the voice is automatically assumed to be, presumed as a political ambition person, because with all some of the submission that I've seen online, everybody are beginning to give different reactions to it. But with the government pressing, or presenting, will I say, improvements in telecoms and infrastructure, in education as proof of progress, so to speak, while citizens are pointing to inflation, insecurity, poverty, of regression, who truly has that authority, if I may ask, or would I say credibility, maybe the word is credibility now, to define Nigeria's development trajectory now, because this statistics alone, or I don't know, is it the statistics, is it the people? I don't know. I would like you to throw a lot of light on this.
Madam, you have brought so many gamut of issues, and we have to, the situation is a very complex situation. The political economy of Nigeria is like this. He who has the political power in Abuja today dictates almost everything. So when there are people outside that political arrangement that makes comment because of their understanding of economics and how it should work, particularly a developing country like this, that is a monoculture economy that is, since 1974 to date, we have depended so much on oil and gas. So when those view as outsider, when they make statements about the political policies and economic policies of any government in power, it's always seen as if that person is antagonizing the government. If you see the history of Nigeria, when Awolowo, chief of blessed memory, was making comment about the economy in 1982-83, before the collapse of that regime, that same regime also was against Awolowo when he pointed that the economy was going to have crisis because import license was introduced to regulate how much volume of dollar can be allocated to you to import, because Nigeria was importing so much. That was the creation of Paris Club, London Club.
Yeah,
that was the beginning. So, and eventually the economic collapsed. The political system also collapsed because Buhari has to take over government. And then the journey started. And we have not recovered from that 1984 crisis up till now. We have not recovered. So President Obasanjo came in 1999 trying to see if he could continue with the reform of President Babangida, because the economy needed reform because it was fractured and dented since 1982-83. So, and we could not recover before Babangida handed over to Abacha. Abacha handed over, okay, by death to Absalam. So the structural adjustment program that the economy needed, it did not get the adequate attention. And Obasanjo picked it up through privatization and tried to see if he could restructure the economy and the political system to manage it carefully for GDP growth. But it didn't work out. Yar'Adua came. Yar'Adua, unfortunately, was not very strong. So this situation is like this. It's a trajectory of how political office holders guide jealously through propaganda and everything to keep what is already at their own disposal. So when President Tinubu was governor here and was outside, he was very well informed about what was going on. So whenever he makes statement or release press statement against any government in power, we all read it, we all like him, because he was talking from position of knowledge. So now that he's there, and those of us that are like his disciple who want him to do well, I will still say when he's not doing well, I will say, no, your people in the media team should not attack this person in this way. They should come out with more facts to justify what they are doing for you to do better, Mr. President. That is why my voice, every time I try to make my voice to be like a righteous voice. I'm not political. So this situation, this propaganda, to say, oh, don't say this, you say this, is uncalled for. And I want to have a balanced view of the whole situation as far as I'm concerned, madam. Our GDP is weak compared to the resources we have. Insecurity has not allowed our people to go back to the farm to produce more agricultural produce. Insecurity has not allowed, and lack of investment, us to produce more gas and more oil. So if we are saying this, that 220 million people GDP is weak, it's not that I'm not criticizing government. I'm trying to tell government, let us do it this way to improve. And that is the position I see Professor Adesina talking.
All right. So
we should balance this matter.
Yeah, so yeah. I like the fact that you are talking about how the GDP is weak, but let me use a sector that I feel that I can use to buttress my next point, because if NTN's 1 trillion Q1 revenue is being used as a benchmark for national, economic progress, does the growth of this telecoms and tech sectors, genuinely reflect, the shared prosperity that across the Nigerian population? Or is it just that we are just witnessing maybe an elite-driven growth that is, beclouding the deeper structural poverty in the land? I would like you to, throw light on this in 1 minute before we go on a break.
Okay, madam, the GDP that telecom segment added, the percentage it added, the quantum
for Q1,
the quantum looks good. It looks good. It has almost surpassed oil and gas. Okay, so it's good, but let me tell you, madam, you hardly see the value of what telecom produces. You cannot quantify the joy you get when you are able to communicate with the person you want to communicate within 2 minutes. You cannot quantify it. It's unquantifiable. So the more robust you have a telecom system in a country, the fiber infrastructure, optic fiber that we network everybody, and the radio system that we deliver messages through the infrared of all the towers, the more that society is likely to develop rapidly. You need electricity, you need telecom, you need safety and security. So if we improve on it, it will improve on our GDP growth, because this 3.5 is not good for a population that is growing at about 3.2. Our population is growing at about 3.2, almost at par with the GDP.
I'm hearing now that we are about 133, no longer 120 that we are quoting, or 125 that we keep quoting, because nobody is actually doing that data search to say that, okay, this is the actual figure in terms of population for Nigeria.
Now our population is about 220 to 25, madam.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant, sorry.
Okay,
so they are saying 230 now. That's what I was going to say. That they are saying now it's now 230, 235.
If we have a scientific census with high resolution remote sensing application, digitized resolution that can pick even goats, our population may be about 180 million. Real. But for political and planning purposes, let's say our population is 230 million.
At least we're over 200 million.
Exactly, we're over 200 million for political and planning purposes because of urbanization, infrastructure, water, roads, the square feet you need per day, the volume of water you need per day as a person, the number of salt you need per day, the grains of wheat you need to consume per day, the salt, the oil, the sugar. All these are captured in planning. But Nigerians don't even know that as he's on the road there, we need to know how many square feet he needs per day and water he needs per day to survive. This is the purpose of having that census. But GDP can only be increased when you have infrastructure and you train your people to know how to produce.
All right, many thanks for that insight right there. We'll go on a quick break. When I return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. Right, glad to know you're still right there with us. In case you're just tuning in or you just joined us, I've been unpacking, or we've been unpacking the debates sparked by Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, rather, in terms of the remarks, in comparison with Nigerians' 1960 and present day GDP per capita and the political storm that followed. So from whether GDP per capita is even the right metric, or the growing divide between the data and the live reality of where we are, it's clear that everything is beneath the numbers that lies powerful narrative and even more powerful, interesting perspective. And now in the second half of the show, I will be having more real talk on the I don't know, should I say the elite in terms of the tech-driven growth versus the mass poverty, the tension between public infrastructure and private prosperity, whether we are truly building a country for all or just a few. Again, I want to say many thanks, Mr. Kunle, for all that you've shared thus far on the issue at hand. And let me use this opportunity to open our phone lines. Remember that you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio number 090-412-79932. Again, 090-412-79932. Apologies, we just changed our numbers right now, and it's showing on your screen for those who would like to be part of this conversation. Of course, we're streaming live on Facebook, on Silverbird platform, on Real Talk with Kike. I'm yet to retrieve my old page. We've created a new backup page. Please, I would like you to follow so that we can start our live program back. Again, so I say many thanks for all that you've shared thus far. But in a country where we are over, earlier I was quoting 133. I know that we are over 200 million, and with the little that I've seen thus far, there's a lot of debates online saying that we are like 230 or 235 million Nigerians that are being classified, as a multidimensional, so to speak. Maybe it's the 133 that is a multidimensional. According to the NBS, yes. I think that was what I wanted to remember. That was what was making me, put the figures as in together. So it's the 133 now, in terms of what MBS have said in 2023 to be precise. Yet we simultaneously witness, a rise, in billionaires and tech unicorns. Are we in that face of facts to say that, you know, we are experiencing elite progress, so to speak, in quotes, that thrives, you know, amidst that mass poverty? Or what does this dual reality mean for a nation like Nigeria in terms of cohesion? Because I cannot help to bring this conversation to when you also look at the conversation from the presidency when it comes to the label of Dr. Adesina's remarks as unverified and politically motivated. Does this suggest that, you know, a growing hostility to empirical facts or empirical data and factual discourse now is something that they are struggling with? Can we still have that objective, you know, national conversation where, in a climate where I would say that facts are increasingly viewed through partisan lenses? I just want to keep it real on this platform.
Yeah, okay. Madam, yes, partisan, as we have said, political. The political office holders, they keep it jealously because they are the one there now. President Shagari and his team kept it jealously in 1982-83 when they introduced import license. But Chief Obafemi Awolowo pointed to them that, look, there's danger, and they lost it. So I don't want President Tinubu and his spokespeople, who are very good, and some of them are my good friends. I don't want them to miss the point. We shouldn't repeat history, particularly bad history. You should change the course of life. And President Tinubu has good chance. Somebody wrote that, let this cat, whether it's black or white, let it just catch the mice. Somebody wrote today, I read an article of Azu, I think, of a leadership newspaper. So let us help President Tinubu to catch the mice. So let us disemphasize, thank you, let us disemphasize whether the statement comes from a prophet, or it comes from a messenger, or it comes from Mala. Now, to go back to the 133 million dimensionally poor people in Nigeria, multi-dimensionally poor people in Nigeria. Yes, in Nigeria, there seems to be large-scale poverty. But what has helped us is subsistence farming. Except the recent insecurity that has brought subsistence farming, yes, to its needs. Otherwise, there was almost no absolute poverty in Nigeria when we were growing up. People were able to manage. And I still see Nigeria as a country that is managing compared to some countries in Africa. So we should be careful about the extreme we go to label this 133 million people as multidimensionally poor. Yes, I agree they may not have more than $2 a day to feed. I agree, but the interdependency, the social structure of Nigeria, the sociology, nobody leaves his own parents or relation to go absolute into poverty. So the elites that you say, the elites that you qualify now, that are making fortune in spite of in the midst of this poverty, those elites have relations, they have classmates, they have friends. So they extend part of this fortune to them. That is the balancing.
So that's the human resources.
Yeah, exactly. So that is the balancing. Some people you see that are schooling abroad today, if you know who sponsors them, you will be shocked. It's part of this same new people that made fortune in ICT that are sponsoring them in specialized courses. So government must address the fundamentals. That is the role of government. Security and safety, basic sanitation, water, health center, basic primary education and maybe secondary education, vocational and technical education to support the teeming population that does not have access to tertiary education and that are not exposed beyond their localities. So that is the only way to go to the base to start rearranging the economy of the country. If you want production, you must remobilize your people for agriculture, for low-hanging things that they can do on their own with their hand, craftsmanship, so as to support the sophisticated society you just mentioned now, that can stay here and work and earn thousands of dollars. They are going to step down part of these thousands of dollars. You can see what the real estate has become, even in the structure of the GDP analysis. You can see that real estate has occupied almost number 1 or number 2 now in the breakdown, because people are investing in real estate. People are pouring cement on the ground because they believe in securitization of properties. So the consciousness is there now. A lot of money are not going out of the country anymore. A lot of money are sinking here. Go to Eco Atlantic at your back there now and see money sinking on ground there. So it's a delicate issue, but we should not be over sensitive to the political dimension in which people talk.
All right. So
because it's just temporary. We still have 2 years for President Tinubu to prove that he's really doing the reform accordingly.
So when you say that, sir, many thanks again for that submission right there. But with the government pointing to increased numbers of roads, of schools, of hospitals since 1960, yet many citizens, are questioning their functionality and accessibility as well. Should Nigeria be measured or be measuring development by the quantity of infrastructure built or by the actual outcomes that these, assets, will I say, the assets deliver in terms of services, in terms of equity, in terms of impact? Because all these things that we are talking about, sir, is there a widening? I don't know. I'm struggling by choice of words now with the disconnect between policymakers, the economists, and the general public in understanding the critical economic, terms such as the GDP that you mentioned earlier. You've also touched on inflation as well, and poverty index that you've just given in terms of, our reality today. How critical, sir, is the wide spread economic literacy to enable, that meaningful national, dialogue that can inform civil engagement across the sector?
Thank you, madam. You see, there is what we call quantitative jump and qualitative values. That's what the summary of what you are saying is that, you have plenty roads. Those roads are not there in 1960. Yes, those roads that were there in 1960 were small, narrow roads, but very functional, very durable. But what was the population? So a nation, madam, like Nigeria, any nation, you need physical infrastructure, road, water, education, universities. You need physical infrastructure. You need fiber. You need electricity transmission infrastructure. You need power. You need railway system. Those are what you call physical infrastructure. You need it. You need deep sea ports. You need refineries. You need petrochemicals. So these are physical development that must be engineered by leadership, by the core group that drives the society. Now, the quality that you get, what you get out of all this physical infrastructure, if there are roads, so many roads in Nigeria, but they are bad. So that means the quality, the quantity of qualitative service you derive from those roads is subject to conversation. That is another issue. That is why when you ask that question, quantity, quality. Okay. So I cannot drive my car from here to Ogbomoso because the road from Ibadan to Ogbomoso is almost impassable. But there is road. But the quality, woeful. So now government must sit down and say, okay, where are our priorities to make sure the infrastructure that we are just building all over the place, let's look at how functional they are going to be to support life so that the level of suffering can be reduced, because life is about the quality of time you spend there, not about the quality of suffering. That is why our friends who propounded that anybody who comes from Lagos, when, like Dangote, when they are going to heaven, God will just say, go to paradise straight because you have suffered enough. You have suffered enough on earth. You have suffered enough humiliation and abuses and antagonism in the. So Nigerians, our life in Nigeria, we should all go to paradise because we have suffered enough. Because infrastructural failure, no light, no water, no
security,
exactly.
Right.
So this infrastructural matter, madam, is also the quality of the infrastructure of a nation is the one that will drive the GDP. If your phone is cutting every time you make a phone call, it means the quality of service you are getting is poor. You will not complete the transaction on time, and you will not get valuable result from the transaction.
I get that point. I have to interrupt your thought process. I understand we have a caller online. Friday, I don't know where he's calling from. Many thanks for calling Friday. I'm not sure. I'm not that clear. I don't know if you got that right, sir. Did you hear that? Did you hear what he said? No. Okay, all right. I just have to let that go. But quickly, this might be my last question to you. Because of time, we have the last segment of the show. Although Dr. Akinwumi Adesina has not declared any political ambition, you know, I don't know. I don't know. Could this you know, I don't know the word to use now, because we have to be careful now how we construct our words in terms of the backlash to speech, you know, given the global, you know, stature and all of that, the technocrats pedigree, you know, the data-driven critique, you know, I just feel that this, with the way people have responded to it, it just signals that it's being quietly perceived as a potential political threat ahead of 2024 or 2027 election. What's your take on this?
Madam, you see, this is the problem. So if anybody, where this is democracy gives you the universality of expression of yourself and your interests. And President Tinubu was in that same mold before, where he was governor for 8 years. After being governor, when they organized to get rid of President Jonathan from office. So, and when President Tinubu was in support of President Buhari to become president, when it was time for him to campaign, he said it was his turn, Emilokan. So today, anybody that is in Nigeria, from any part of Nigeria, has the right to say So, okay. But if Professor Adesina have not come out to say he wants to be president, why should the people managing President Tinubu be so afraid? So when 2 years ahead, you still have 2 years to prove anything. He's the one having the knife and the yam in his hand. Why should the people around him be so scared of a pronouncement from Dandy Kunle? If I come out today and say I want to be president at 67, why should they be afraid of me? Just me. What will Professor Adesina do to create fear for them? I think everybody has a right to express himself freely and to correct when government is not going in the right trajectory. Okay, all right. So I'm neutral as much as possible. I'm neutral. All right, many thanks for all that you have shared thus far. But this is not the time to let you go. There's the last segment of the show before I let you go, which is what I call the trending stories. These are stories that binds us as Nigerians, as Africans, and this is where I have an opinion as a host. You know, I'll be asking you all the questions, you'll be giving me your own submissions on it, but I will exercise my own, you know, fundamental human rights now. And the first trending story that caught my attention is that of the mass failure in JAM that shows anti-cheating measures that are being, you know, that are working out there. You know, the Alausa education minister, you know, there's so many things regarding this JAM issue, right? And I felt that I needed to bring this conversation right now to trending today, because let's take this matter from an objective point of view. The mass failure by apparent indication shows that, you know, anti-cheating measures are effective and that their system and technology is curbing exam malpractices. But kudos to JAM, if I'm supposed to say that, you know, kudos to those institutions working day and night to ensure that our students, you know, are not half-baked and that they are not product of cheating. On the second thought, they shouldn't even relent on their, I don't know now, on their oars, because as their advanced malpractice, you know, system, the students and parents will also find a way to beat and cheat the system. I'm just trying to keep it real on this platform. This is a reflection of our culture for decades now. Now, my main concern is about our educational system. You know, our system needs practical overhaul. You know, we have expired and archaic syllabuses still being used in schools that should be extensively overhauled, because
Secondly is the fact that our system of education, you know, and orientation is falling in areas of innovation in terms of, you know, initiatives and the likes and all of that. Even the best students with the best results, I beg to differ. Some of them don't even know the usefulness of the theory of the chemical compounds that they have mastered in the school. At the same university level, you will lack the practical of knowledge, so to speak. What do I mean by that? We see students who is a first-class student in computer science and can hardly practicalize their knowledge to build the innovative, you know, things. What do you, as in, what do I even further mean by that? Because some people are wondering that what am I saying? We see a student who is sound in statistics and not found the usefulness or the usefulness of the, you know, algebra and integration in real life scenarios. So in a nutshell, I just feel that classroom brilliance is far away from innovation and initiative. Classroom brilliance is far away from being intelligent. I keep saying that every now and then, that classroom brilliance is not 100%, you know, translated into practical innovation, and that is why the West are ahead of us. So they believe more in what you can practicalize rather than the amount of formula in your head. So it is the same reason that I feel that our product needs to go abroad, shine like diamonds. Back to our own discussion, the students may not pass JAMB on paper, but there could be 101 ways to harness their talents, their skills, you know, knowledge through practicality. And the reason why I feel that abroad, you know, you see our students, you know, when they see your area of strength, this person is good in this, they concentrate on that. We still lack all of those issues. But sir, what's your take on this quickly before I
Madam, thank you very much. I can understand your pains. All your observations have been captured in most of my previous conversation when I said the system has been allowed to collapse completely. The educational system of Nigeria collapsed completely. The primary education, when you go to some places and see the primary school we attended in those days, when we closed, they will lock all the windows and the doors everywhere. The field were, the grasses were well cured in those days. We were the one that have to cut it once a week during the rainy season. The primary education, which is the foundation, has been destroyed in Nigeria. Primary school that are private are the one thriving. How many people can pay for it? So the same way the system we are running, the political system we are running in Nigeria, has been fueling the deconstruction of what we inherited from the colonial masters in 1960. We destroy UCH Ibadan. The health system is destroyed. We destroy the university system. The professors are poorly paid. You saw me advocating recently on an international platform that the professors that lecture the people that are working in NNPC are the one coming to Abuja through ASU to look for money to fund the university to get their salaries. And the boys they lecture in the university are the one in NNPC mismanaging our most treasured resources where we get money to run the economy. So it's unfortunate that that number of people have to get below cutoff mark in JAMB, because that shows again you have that pool of children now that are liabilities. They have not passed. They need to find something to do. Can their parents send them back to school? It's difficult. Some of them don't want to go back. Can they find a technical school, vocational and technical school, where they can be trained for something in the next 1 year before some of them attempt another JAMB? So it's part of the national calamity, and it's not going to be for the good of our future at all. So it's a serious issue that Professor Alausa, the Minister of Education, all the steps he has taken so far so good. I think he's on the right trajectory. It's part of the reform, of the global reform that the country needs to do. It's part of the reform. Is not just about subsidy removal and this and that. The state government must be held accountable of what they do to primary education and secondary education. I
love that.
Because they are receiving so much money. So when you heap everything on President Tinubu, it's wrong. Everything. That is why Minister of Education, Federal Minister of Education, I want them to unbundle it. Why should Federal Minister of Education be involved about secondary school in my local government, federal government secondary school? They should all go. They should go to the local government, the states, because the load is too much on federal. So we need this reorientation. We need to see how we are going to recalibrate the primary education and the secondary education. They are the foundation. And this goes down to local government and our rural area. It's unfortunate, madam. It's the foundational.
It's unfortunate. Issue. Again, many thanks for your submission there. Let me go to the last trending story. This is where Grace Ofure, donates 50 King James Version Bibles to the public, and as I wrap up today's episode of Real Talk with Kike, I just felt that I needed to bring this to fore because I want to take a moment to celebrate a powerful act of generosity and purpose during the past episode, which was last week, where we raised the important question under the hashtag "Where is Ejiro?" That was created by Dr. Nkechi, the NHN, and my last guest on the show last week on Thursday, to be precise, Grace Ofure, made the heartfelt pledge, to donate 50 copies of King James Bible to the public. I'm pleased to announce that she has fulfilled that pledge. This was not just, a donation, it was a mission. Her words were clear: read and liberate yourself, because truly there's nothing new under the sun. Whether pain, whether confusion or hardship or divorce, or name it, that you may be going through, or disloyalty, name it, abuses from different quarters. The people of God have been there before you, and the answers aren't locked behind pupils, or how will I put it now, behind, or will I say hidden behind, rituals. They are in the world waiting for you to discover them by yourself. So to that end, anyone within Lagos who is interested can come to Silverbird Galleria, on Amadu Bello Way, and pick a copy for yourself. It's completely free. As for Real Talk with Kike Studio, empower yourself spiritually. Again, I want to emphasize on that. Empower yourself spiritually. Understand God personally. Don't be deluded, brainwashed, or hypnotized by fake prophets. Say, I just say the word, but know God by yourself. Be the hearer and the doer of God's words by yourself. Let me use this medium again to say a big thank you to, Grace Ofure, for this thoughtful and deeply, philanthropic contributions, to the society. May your example continue to inspire others to act, from their hearts, and give back meaningfully and genuinely without them expecting anything in return, because we live in an environment that is opportunistic. People are always doing the cross and minuses. Why do I have to be friends with this? What do I have to do to get close to so person? So this act, is something that I believe that your own children and people around you, will also find God's favor in everything that they lay their hands on. Thank you so much for, pledging all of this to the public. Unfortunately, I cannot come to you to give a submission. Let me use this medium to say thank you to my resourceful guests, Mr. Kunle, for creating time here to lend your voice on issues that affect us all as Nigerians, and I want to wish you the very best as you continue to navigate the water, and of course to lend your voice on issues that affect us. I wish you longevity and sparkling of health, and may you continue to be relevant in your field. This is where I draw the curtains of the show. Till I come your way next week, remember to be kind to one another, put a smile on somebody's face, and I'm going to rest this weekend by now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
sir. Thank you very much, audience.
Thank you. Thank you.